Hey guys, a very good morning to all of you. Welcome back to this yet another session on Assessment Center, which is a part of this competency mapping program. To begin with, let us actually do a little recap as to uh, whatever we did in our session one, session two, how does it connect to the assessment centers? Okay. We in fact started off saying that hey, competencies are very very critical for any organization because they predict performance. And then we talked about how to go about mapping competencies. So we use the competency mapping method to identify competencies, whether it's for an organization, for a function, for a role specific, or for identifying core competencies. Now, uh, if anybody can recall, so when we started off with competency mapping, the first and the foremost step we talked about is step one. What is that? We need to have a job description in place, right? Because for whom are we doing it? After having identified, we need to have what are these roles going to do? What are these jobs doing? And only by having a job description, we would know what are the tasks, what are the responsibilities, what do they do, so that we can understand what is it required in terms of knowledge, skills, competencies, etc., in order to do these jobs effectively. Would you agree with me? Yeah. So we talked about a very quick method in terms of creating job description. Anybody recalls that method?
So one you
Okay.
gave a
Right?
website. I think.
Yeah, you can use this website. It's very good. Own it, which is free,
Own
does
it.
not cost you any much. So you can actually get uh, a, a, a comprehensive, detailed job description. And you cannot just use that. You have to customize it. And I also told you how you should go about customizing. Best way is to send it through Google Forms to all those key stakeholders who interact with this role, because they have certain expectations. The role has certain offerings to do. So why does a role exist? Because you have certain offerings and you have certain expectations from the stakeholder. So once you capture all that, it will give you a good understanding of what the job does. Why does it exist? So that's where again the third session starts. That means what? That we need to have the competencies in place. Now, what is a competency? What is an assessment center? Assessment center. Now, assessment center is not a physical place, assessment center. No, it's a process of assessing. Now, you have mapped the competencies for these positions. So, once you have mapped these competency positions, now you need to assess them or evaluate them in terms of whether these individuals who are doing these jobs have these competencies. Are you getting me? Two scenarios. One is in this last session, we talked about what are those key competencies required in terms of knowledge, skill, abilities required for this position, whether it's an HR manager, for the CFO, the CHRO, what are they who for these jobs? Now, once you have mapped them, once you have identified them, then hey, Subir is working as a CHRO in that position. Now, does he have those competencies to perform that job? How do I know? Is it just by doing a small interview and saying, I select him? Huh? Or I want to promote some senior manager to a CHRO? Then how do I actually assess what is his current knowledge vis-a-vis the required? So this is all about assessing competencies. Is that clear? Just to create a little understanding. that assessment center is all about evaluating competencies, whether it's for selection, whether it's for promotion, whether it's for any developmental L&D, trade OD, organization development, whether it's for succession planning, career planning, etc. You can use it again for all your HR functions, just as we said that competencies are being used for all the HR functions, we can assess them. Good morning. And I've just emphasized on the importance of assessment centers. How do we connect the last session to today's session, saying that once we have identified the competencies required at an organizational level, at a functional level, at a role level, then how do we assess the people, whether our organization has these core competencies, or how do we assess whether the job family or the job function or the role has these competencies? And that's how we do the assessment centers. Okay, assessment center. Has anybody have you all done assessment center, a little understanding of assessment center? Anybody? Just
So I've been a part of the
about.
assessment center. I was assessed by by the Big Four at some point in time in my career. So
Excellent. So you have
Yeah,
some amount of experience. All right.
when I was working in earlier company, which was a consulting firm, we used to conduct assessment centers for college students. So it was in
Excellent.
batches. Yeah.
Yes. At an entry level for selection and
Entry.
recruitment, you conduct assessment. People, you can take the right kind of people for performing. Great. So, so this is our agenda today. What is an assessment center, components, how do we design an assessment center, how do you conduct, and then how do you give feedback, etc. Well, it's going to be a very interesting session, and we also built in a lot of practical activity in this so that you are able to understand better. It's just not theory. All right. I don't want to go much into this history of assessment, and I'm sure all of you can just go through. But yes, if you recall, you know, there was always some form of assessment when you are trying to recruit people. Right from the time, even during the World War times, let me tell you, assessment is not something new. Even traditionally, when the World War was happening, whether it started off in World War One, World War Two, trying to use it as a selection criteria to select the best kind of officers, so that there was a criteria with the reference to what kind of trades, what kind of dimensions would predict performance. Based on that, they had used some kind of an assessment criteria to select people. And thereon, it was first the AT&T who experimented with the assessment center in their selection, trying to ensure that they put in a criteria so that they are able to select the right kind of people. But then, as it evolved, you can see that globally, across all countries, you use assessment centers very widely, whether it's for selection, recruitment, promotion, etc. It's being used widely. And in the current scenario, especially with the kind of technology advancements, today, most of the assessment centers, be it for, I'm sure all of you know, right from the selection to involving performance management, involving succession, it's mostly done through what? Digital assessment centers can be done not only face to face, but they can also be done online, which saves a lot of money. In fact, when you do assessment centers are quite expensive. So entry level recruitment, wherever you have to filter and do huge numbers, online recruitment is the most happening thing. Okay, guys. Okay, having said that, why should we use? We use like for example, this is the statistical evidence saying that you can see that you can predict if you are using handwriting as a criteria for selection, you can see what is the predictive validity, 0.02, as opposed to what? As opposed to a structured interview, which is better, 0.51. But assessment centers, they are really able to predict uh, a higher, much higher validity in more than even 0.63. Cognitive ability tests plus structured interviews, which almost become a part of assessment center, they are much more. In fact, statistics today recommends predictive validity to the extent of 0.95, to that extent, provided your entire designing of assessment center is really very standardized, structured, etc. Now we will actually see what are those design conditions, what are those elements which comprise of assessment center. Okay, and you yourself will also be doing, you will be designing an assessment center so that you have a first-hand experience of how do we design an assessment center. Okay, any questions thus far, guys? We just done the background. Okay, so if we were to design an assessment center, how would you go about in your own words? I explained to you what is an assessment center, that it has a kind of a standard, it's a method, it has a procedure comprising of various what is it, exercises, various tests, various simulations to evaluate the knowledge, skills, etc. So anybody who can actually generally define, if you were to define an assessment center in your own words, just to get an understanding, anybody?
So one, ma'am, we have to first understand the role or the JD for the role very clearly, to assess the candidate. That's the first preamble. Then
Yeah,
probably look at
precondition or
applications.
preamble, very important to understand the job.
And
Yeah.
second,
Okay.
then we have to look at what methods we'll use, whether we'll do a interview technique or a case study or a role play, or in basket exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Mm-hmm.
decide which one will be more suitable for us to understand and or to figure out the current I think competencies that is required for the role. I think
Okay.
that's the construct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
And
Anybody else? Yeah,
yeah,
Priyanka, you want?
yeah. Adding to Subir, we used to also have a psychometric test, online test to assess the suitability of the candidates, like in basket exercises and simulations that involved group discussions and also role plays. For an example, if it was a marketing related job, then two candidates were given the role play of being a salesperson and one is a customer, like that. I mean, used to
Okay,
work
very
like
good.
that.
Okay, anyone else want to add something?
I think I'll just add on to what Priyanka and Sudhir mentioned, along with identifying the role that we want to set up an assessment center for. We'll have to very clearly understand the competencies that we're trying to evaluate. Create a panel of I don't know what's the right word. A panel of people who are
Judges,
going to evaluate
assessors.
assessors. Yeah, a panel of assessors who are going to evaluate the competencies. And like Priyanka said, identify what is going to be the right mix of activities that we'll have to undertake to evaluate those competencies, and of course have a time frame around it. Have time for each of these activities, time allocated for each of these activities, and perhaps towards the end also kind of give feedback to the participants.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah, I think
So,
technical
as right,
competencies of functional competencies, getting the right person who can assess the functional and technical competencies is very important. Very easy key to success of the assessment center.
yeah, excellent. I think everybody, what I've now, having listened to everybody, you have sufficient good understanding as to at least what it is. So you said, very important, what to evaluate, what competencies to evaluate, right? From where will I get them? From the job. From the job, I will arrive at, that will give me the first step in determining what competencies I need to evaluate. Then, how am I going to evaluate? By designing certain tests, exercises, standardized tests, which will help me to what? For me to elicit behaviors from the evaluation, in the sense that when I'm going to observe people, candidates, employees, so these tests will help me to what? Observe what are those behaviors,
levels of
related
proficiency.
behaviors, okay, and levels of proficiency. And then I'm going to document. So as rightly stated, it is a method for evaluating and assessing individuals, and typically job candidates or employees to determine their suitability for a specific role or a promotion. So it actually involves, as all of you have stated, that it involves exercises, activities, simulations, a variety of testing techniques, like you said. It could be psychometric tests, it could be in basket, it could be leaderless group discussions, testing on leadership competencies, it could be testing on functional competencies, etc. And then you are, through these techniques, you are now understanding how, helping candidates to demonstrate their skills and abilities, so that you are able to then effectively evaluate them. So this is, in a nutshell, all about what is an assessment center. So some of the objectives or the purpose of an assessment center. Let me see why should we be doing assessment center? Yeah. Now that you have understood, yes, why should we be doing assessment center? What are some of the objectives of assessment center?
So basically to
For
understand,
assessing.
yeah, Priyanka.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can.
Anybody?
So basically to understand whether the particular person fits that particular role or not. So whether it's
Okay, you can start from the entry, in the sense that recruitment, right? You can actually use it for selecting the right person, then for high potential talent, for evaluating multiple competencies, predicting on the job performance, right? Identifying development needs. Today, in fact, a lot of organizations are using for identifying developmental needs, and that assessment center is called what? Development center. We
Development center.
then don't call it as an assessment center, but we are assessing the competencies, establishing the level of their competencies in order to understand the gaps in their performance, so that then we can give them focused learning and development interventions, right? So that's called a development center. Then, even to enhance our decision making or organizational effectiveness, to predict performance, to reduce bias. Why do you think assessment centers are a better predictor of your recruitment, selection, etc., as opposed to an interview? That's the most important thing. As opposed to an interview, why do you think assessment centers
I
are
think
better?
more technically sound. You are actually trying to evaluate the technical competencies more than probably just the behavioral ones.
Yeah, I think interview would also have a lot of subjective biases from the interviewer's end. So I think this kind of gives a very clear, quantifiable scoring to the competencies that you're trying to assess. So
yes, but just look back and think about this iceberg model, what we talked about, right? Huh?
correct.
So when we talked about the iceberg model, we said that competency is what? Knowledge,
Knowledge and skill.
skill, then what else?
Self-image. You can look at.
Very good, very good. I'm trying to see how many people remember. Then
It is
Great.
Then, oh, sorry. Help me understand the last thing I said, talked about, very important.
Deep-rooted motives.
Right, which actually are at the deep ended, Now, typically in most of the organizations, what do? In our, most of the organizations, we interview candidates and we test for what? We test mostly for, we say, hey, he has got good education, he has got great experience, and we will test him for the knowledge and skill part, right?
Mm.
But what is deeply embedded within your personality, which is, whether he's motivated, what are the key traits which are required, how do we test them? We also test them. Are you interested in the job? Can you travel? Yes, ma'am, I can travel. Oh, I adapt. How flexible are you? I'm very flexible, ma'am. You'll only find how flexible he is, how adaptable he is. Can you work with a team? Yes, I can work with a team. Now tell me, all this way of assessing, evaluating, will they really help you to know the real trait and the motive of the candidate?
No.
Deep inside. You are using the same question method. So you need to have a much more effective, predictable method of understanding, assessing, evaluating those critical competencies related to behavior for that particular job, which are motives, traits, and the self-image. So that because the predictability of the job is dependent more on them as opposed to just knowledge and skill. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that knowledge and skill are not required. They are required at least at a threshold level. But you can definitely train them up, help that person to improve. Say, for example, I have an HR business partner. The HR business partner at, say, a manager level definitely requires knowledge, skill, and the person has definitely an education experience. Okay, I test for them. But what is critical for that role to be performed on the job is there are 3 or 4 critical behavioral competencies which are important. What are they? Just give me one critical competency if anybody is in an HRBP role.
Competency.
Yeah, say communication skills. Very important, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Interpersonal skills. Huh? Because you have key stakeholders. Okay. Then what else? Attention to detail, but that person has to do so many things. Okay. Because entire employee life cycle he has to manage, he or she has to manage. So you identify, depending on the organization's level, that role, and also what are the key tasks and what are those key competencies, which take time to train them. It is not, I'm not saying it's impossible, but does the organization have so much of time to train? So therefore, it's very important. Why do we fail most of the time? In my 35 plus years of experience, I've seen, why do we fail to recruit or promote the right kind of people? Because we merely go by what? Just the knowledge, just the skill, and say, hey, he's excellent. He has come from the best organization. He's got so much of experience. But have I really tested him, evaluated him for those key competencies?
I think the common behavior we have seen that people are very good in their communication in an interview, so we get misled by their skills, so we feel that.
So as somebody said, I can just get biased because of what? My first impression is well dressed, very well speaking. The halo effect, right? One particular element coloring our entire judgment, or it could be the other way around, the what halo effect, or the what is the opposite of?
They are very sweet talkers. You can actually find them very in interview that knowledgeable, but but they will not have much of ground realities. And
the
this is a-
unconscious bias, what we talk about, the stereotype of thing, genders, or maybe subjected to certain people, certain institutes, etc. So just to give a little more understanding. Say, for example, I am recruiting for Starbucks and I need people with the key competency called customer orientation or customer delight. Now, he has an excellent knowledge of everything. He can do a sales page, everything, product knowledge, everything. But how do I test for customer orientation? Does he have a customer orientation? Or, how will he go about if there is a complaint from a customer, which is more behavioral? So I need to know. So just by asking questions about customer orientation, he can actually, what will he do? If I ask Priyanka that, hey, this role needs, a high amount of customer orientation. How good are you at customer orientation? Or how will you handle customers? Ma'am, I'm really very good at. You will suit your answers to my questions, right? But how do I justify? But how do I know that you are very good?
So when you actually get into a role play, you'll understand whether.
Hypothetical. I can give you a hypothetical
Hypothetical
situation,
situations.
and you will give me suitable answers. Who will be telling, oh, I'm not really good. But how do I really know the real Priyanka? Okay. So that's where the assessment centers help us, because they will help us to understand, relate to the real self, and they will be able to demonstrate through simulation exercises. Okay, guys? Can we getting into, we have already. So just to give you a little broad perspective, so it looks at behavior competencies. Now competencies, how will I evaluate? Because I told you the building block of competencies are called bars. Behavioral, what? Anchored rating scales, where there will be behaviors anchored at every level of proficiency, or we can also call them constructs, or we can also call them dimensions. At the end of it, what are we observing? We are observing behavior of a related competency. Okay. And how do we do them? Like somebody was talking about. So in an assessment center, we'll have what? Assessors. We'll have assessors who will be observing, documenting, recording, classifying, and then evaluating. On what? On these behaviors. Okay. Now, just to give you a nice pictorial so that, you can understand, just to give you. So typically when we talk about an assessment center, you'll have what? Administrator. Somebody has actually gone through it. Someone, Priyanka or Anita, somebody already spoke about it. So, so you have what? An administrator who will talk to a set of assessors. After having, what is the step one? After having identified what kind of an assessment are we doing? Are we doing it for selection, for promotion, etc.? Then you will decide on the set of competencies required, and you will also decide on what are those behaviors. You will have a meeting. Got it? And then on the day of assessment center, you can see that all these assessors, say how many assessors we have? Six assessors. They are going to observe. We have called in 12 candidates. Now, it doesn't mean that I will just look at 2 assessors to call 20 candidates. Then what will an assessor do? Which candidate to observe? So you have to have a good ratio of assessor to candidates. At least what? 1:2. That means one assessor to observe 2 candidates. Because if you put too much of a load on one assessor to observe 3 or 4 candidates, he will not be able to do justice. Okay. So the assessors are going to observe. But observe what? Observe. So these candidates are put through several exercises. These exercises are just a laundry list of exercises? No. These are exercises like group discussion, will explain case study, role play, presentation, or in basket. These are all exercises which have been carefully designed to evaluate and assess those relevant competency behaviors. Are you with me? Those relevant competency behaviors. So, when these candidates are going to do these exercises, what would they be doing? They'll be required to what? Demonstrate certain behaviors. So these assessors are going to observe and record, classify those behaviors. Once you have documented entire thing, then at the end of the day, then they come together again. Then every assessor is going to give his or her documentation report on the data collected, whatever has been observed uh, um, of the candidates, and they will integrate everything and a report is presented. If it is a developmental center, then their feedback is given back to the candidates in terms of the interventions for the organization or the function, what they're supposed to learn on class or on the job, etc., so that they are able to they will develop them in those gaps in those competencies. But typically, if it is an assessment center for the purpose of selection, then may or may not be, you get one feedback, but they do not give an extensive detailed report. It is internal. Have you just got a first-hand understanding of how does an assessment center look like, guys? So
Yes.
what happens? You decide step one, there's a background work done, deciding on what? What of it? That is competencies, behaviors, everything has to be in place. Then list of exercises, what are we going to use for what kind of a competencies? Then on the day of the assessment center, then you administer the entire thing on the candidates. Then once you have actually observed and documented all the behavior, then you come back, then you discuss, you integrate and give a report. Okay, guys? All right.
Ma'am, just a couple of questions. This is Anita.
Sure.
You said ideally the ratio should be
1:2. That means one assessor to two candidates.
Okay. Is there also a minimum limit of how many exercises should be done in each of these ACs?
Yeah, we are coming to the design.
Okay.
Maybe you will
Okay.
have a better understanding when
Sure.
we are coming to the design, because that will this is to give you a pictorial understanding of, hey, how does an assessment center looks
Okay.
like, okay?
Okay.
But
Alright.
responding to that first question, that is typically we will recommend, if you are doing a physical assessment center, 1:2. But in today's times, you know what is happening? You are doing it mostly online, virtual. So
Right.
where because of the advancement of the technology, you can record the entire thing,
Right.
right? So you can replay it. So the assessor can replay, watch. But when you're doing it physically, you do not have that advantage. Okay. And at that point of time, if you record too, there's a lot of disturbance there then. So we generally do not recommend. So there's an intensive training which is happening to the assessors as well, as to how they should be observing, recording, classifying. We would also touch upon that to some extent. Okay. All right. So typically, how is a report given? Besides detailed report being given when you're using it for developmental purposes, or when you're using it for giving feedback to your internal employees. So this is called, just to give you a spider web picture. It's like a spider, right? Uh, so this actually demonstrates, you can actually see that there is also a green line and there's also a red line. So what does this show you? That the gap or the difference between what is required and what does the person have. So the red line is what the person has, and the green line is what is required by the job in terms of managerial skills, communication, strategic mindset, leadership, creativity, with the levels of proficiency of 1 to 5. Every competency is required at a different level of proficiency for a particular job. So these are the job competencies required for a job at a different level of proficiencies. This green web, you can, it's been captured. And
Yeah.
after assessment center, you can see that this person has this. So you can understand, hey, where are the gaps? And then necessary interventions can be made through whether on job or whether you want to do it, whatever kind of a training intervention you want to give. Okay, guys, clear?
We used to call this as a radar diagram.
Yeah, I like this because we've been using it. I've been using it for my employees in most of my organization, and it is very dynamic.
Yeah.
So, a very interesting spider web. And all of you, if you are interested, you should just Google up, and you have some good technologies where you can do it for your own organizations, and it doesn't cost much at all. It's just your interest in terms of using technology, and I would highly recommend it because I always like to use pictures, diagrams to showcase things, which gives you not only the interest but a quick understanding of things. You agree with me?
Yes.
So again, the same thing I've just talked about, in the sense that we are we are understanding what to do in terms of competencies, then understanding what tools to be used, and then who is going to assess. Yeah. So typically, just to give you a little more clarity, conducting job analysis, step 1. Step 2, competency frameworks, are they in place? Are they the right kind of frameworks? So when I talk about a competency framework, it also involves the entire building block of behaviors. Then you start, hey, what is the objective of this assessment center? Is it selection? Is it promotion? Is it development? Whatever. Because you are, somebody asked, what kind of tests I need to do? Your design of selecting tests will depend on your objective of the assessment. Okay? Depending on the objective of the assessment. For example, let me give you. So for selection, somebody said we went and did for online. So when you're doing selection, for using it for recruitment, you would use what is that, what is the criteria, what are the competencies required for that particular job, and you would then list out all the competencies and evaluate. But when you're doing a promotion, or when you're doing, as a training intervention, you would promotion and training, then you will say, hey, what are the competencies I'm looking at for the future position? So there is a difference for the future position, so that I understand the gaps of the present, assess them, and then use the gap for necessary interventions. So that's how it matters a lot to understand the purpose and the objective of the assessment centers. Very clear, guys? Can I go ahead? Okay. Then we are listing out
Okay.
all the exercises. I'm going to give you in detail what are they. I'm just listing here: role play, in basket, GDs, presentations, written exercises, psychometric testings, interviews. Then you use them. There are so many offline, online products. You don't have to really reinvent the wheel. And of course, provided the wheel is the same. When I said reinvent the wheel, okay? And then customize it also. And definitely ensure that there is relevance to your whatever you are assessing. Relevance is very, very important. And then use your behavioral indicators or constructs or dimensions, what I call. And then if you are starting it the first time, do always a pilot. Okay, this is how it is. Yeah, this is a similar thing. This is how it looks, just to give you a, so these are the competencies you can see. Then you're going through all the tests, and then you observe, document, and give a report. Yeah, again, you can also have a report in this form. Can you see this? I'm sure a lot of you must have seen this report. We use it even for performance management, sometimes the what part of it and the how part of it. What is the target? Quantification, but how did he go about doing it? So we list out all the competencies. These are the levels of proficiency, and he is supposed to be here. And when I have assessed, where is he? So this gives a very nice report in the form of, what are the gaps? Okay. I'm going to run a little faster here. So my interest in showing you these slides are that you can do it for an entry-level positions, and typically what kind of competencies can you assess. You can do it for mid-level positions, what kind of, so obviously depending on the level and the job, your competencies which you would be assessing or evaluating will vary. At a middle level and a top level, you would be doing for a higher level of competencies in terms of business acumen, strategic orientation, right? Leadership, etc. In fact, you do 360 degrees feedback. I'll tell you what it is interesting. And senior level positions, all right? Because at a senior level, you will do simulations, you will do business presentations, business case studies, just to give you a little understanding, when we are doing business presentations at a senior level, anybody, can you tell me what are they? You are given a case study, you are given some kind of a context. I want to understand how does this person, because you have to take both the external environment, the internal environment, how is he going to discuss, and how is he going to really take a decision based on all these things. So we want to test their ability for strategic orientation, ability for business acumen, ability for leadership, etc. Further on. Yeah. I spoke about it, but to give you a little, so we talked about assessor. Who's an assessor? One is what, that is competencies. Then who are the people who are going to observe, document? They are called
Assessors.
assessors, right? Absolutely. So these assessors, what do? They
Observe the
while the
behaviors.
exercises are being done, okay, they will observe. Observe. Have you noticed here? So they are observing. They are not commenting. They are not judging. They are actually recording the observations. They are recording the behavior which is demonstrated by the candidates. Got it? So once you record it, then what are you going observe and recording? Then they will classify the behaviors. What does classify mean? I will show you a document. Classify in the sense, once you observe and record, they're going to classify it as to which competency it is and at what level of proficiency it is. Scaling. Got it? You are going to classify it. Then once you do that, they are going to sit there. Individual reports are going to be prepared. Then they will scale the behaviors in terms of at what level of proficiency has this behavior been demonstrated. Okay. And then a feedback is given, or if it is warranted. But yes, an evaluation report is prepared, which is an integrated report. It is not an individual report. They come to a consensus and then they prepare. So here, I want to give you a little understanding about the assessor's role. We talked about the assessors are very, very critical, and their recordings are very, very important. So the role of an individual assessor is very important. What we call it as, one second, annotate, okay? Yeah. So typically the role of an assessor, they have to, we call it as O. O stands for O stands for observe. Okay. They have to observe. Observe what? They have to observe the behavior which is being demonstrated by the candidate. Then we call it, then we look at R. R stands for,
Record.
yeah, record. Okay. Then we say ORS. So classifies. So it has to be after recording, it has to be classified into their respective competency. And then E stands for, then you evaluate, getting everybody's individual reports together and make a integrated report. Now, the predictability of the assessment center is also very high, because here what happens is, when you're observing, you're not judging, you're like a video camera, just documenting everything, whatever you observe. Then thereafter, then you are also, while integrating, you are not taking a weighted average. You are discussing everything and then coming to a consensus. There's a difference between consensus and a weighted average, because weighted average might have some kind of a, uh, you know, what I would say as some bias. But when you take a consensus, you're trying to justify, hey, what exactly has been the behavior? Maybe I, as an assessor, must have missed out on that kind of an input. So you actually come to a consensus by understanding the logic. That's how they build the report. Let me quickly rub this so that you are able to. Okay. Let's go to the next one. I don't show. Okay. So there are various, so we talked about various list of exercises. What are the common exercises which come to your mind? Let us first use some of the common exercises which come to your mind. Anybody?
I think group discussions, presentations.
Yeah, let's look at group discussions. Okay, let's just look at group discussions. Essentially, when you're talking about group discussions, what are some of the everybody knows how it goes on. So I'm not getting into what is a group discussion, what happened, but what are those competencies you can assess or evaluate in group discussion? Key competencies. Can you do communication? Right? Huh? Okay.
Yes.
What else?
Yeah.
If you are also having this to assess leadership, can you do that also?
Yes.
If it is a leaderless group, right? Unstructured leaderless group, I can do. Can you also have teamwork? If you have
Team
given
orientation.
a
Team
job and
orientation.
they have to achieve something, you can also get a teamwork, right? And if you have given a goal for this group discussion, goal achievement, right?
Yeah, goal achievement, inclusiveness.
So, yes. So you are saying 4, 5, 6. But essentially, when you're doing one exercise, try and limit yourself to 2 or 3 behaviors. Okay? Competencies. Because, then you can focus on them. Got it? Okay. Self-assessment. Typically, the first step they do is candidate, if you have competencies, then you will also give them a self-assessment saying that, hey, where do you stand, just to see. This gives you a good understanding after they've gone through the entire assessment. How far, what is the gap between their assessment and what actually they have demonstrated? Okay. What is interview simulation? Interview simulation is, it could be in terms of interview simulations, could be role plays. Okay. So there's also role plays. What is it? I want to test for customer orientation. What will I say? I'll just using Subir and Priyanka are people. They have come for assessment center. Now, I, as an assessor, I can be I can give a problem. What kind of a problem can I give? I will say, I'm like a customer who's
Managing a
not
irritated customer.
happy, who's not happy with the product, or who's not happy. I bought something and I'm not happy with, the service, or I've taken telecom. Oh my God, you should see how many complaints, right? So I will maybe on a telephonic. So sometimes through in assessment center, will say, hey, so this is a customer. I act like a customer. What is it? Customer who's unhappy, and you have to deal with this. How will you solve this problem? So what are the things? So you'll be able to come out with a lot of, real-time behaviors. Or for example, an HR business partner. I'm recruiting an HR business partner. Now I can say, I can give a problem saying that, hey, safety is a problem. There are so many grievances. So how are you going to reduce it? I'm going to be a customer, employee. I have this problem today. Payroll. I'm not happy with this payroll situation. There are so many mistakes in my pay slip. How will I deal with it? Right? Huh? Or I can also give you saying that, my rating in performance has been just 3, but I know I have done this, I should be 4. How will I deal with it? So I can simulate. What does simulation mean? Trying to create a realistic kind of a situation. Okay, guys? Simulation is trying to create a realistic kind of a situation as opposed to just asking a question. It forces you to get into the shoes of that real-time behavior. Okay. Leaderless group. I said you can have a group without a leader, and then you want to see who comes out with the, who takes leadership, who actually starts off the discussion. Typically, if you were to go for these MBA interviews, group discussions, we typically have a leaderless group because we want to see, who is the person who takes the initiative, who is the person who will get everybody to collaborate, talk, or even ask some of the members who don't speak, asking for their opinions, etc. Case study. Typically, what is a case study? You give a case, you have to analyze, you have to. So, what kind of a competencies can you actually come up with when you're using a case study? Anybody? Quick.
Well, I for detailing will be very important in a case study.
Okay, detailing. But majorly, what kind of a things can you come up with?
Problem solving.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One is problem solving, then problem solving, fact finding, you
Fact
agree?
finding, analyzing, comprehension,
Presentation, huh?
comprehension.
Writing, because it's all you can also, if you say, hey, after this case study you have to present us with a report, PPT. So there are various things. So case study is a very good way of testing a lot of key competencies. Okay, presentations and report writing can also come up in case study. Social events. Where do we use social events? Hospitality industry, okay. But even for middle level positions, senior level positions, you can use social events. Like, for example, when we were working in Tata's, I'm sure most of you heard of TAS. Tata Administrative Services. So when a TAS recruits people, they also have an evaluation as a social event as a evaluation. So what do? They call them for social event. They want to see how does the person behave. Does he have that etiquette? How does he talk to people? So you are looking at more of these EQs, presenting yourself, especially at a senior people. You definitely need to look at a social event. Yeah. Yes, guys. Somebody was mentioning something.
Okay. His executive presence is also important.
Absolutely. How do you present yourself? How do you dress yourself? These are all very, very important. If you recall, in the 90s and then later on, there was a lot of training for social events, especially with the IT industry. Why do you think they went through all that? Especially the middle level people and the senior level people. They were very, very good experts in their knowledge, skill, but they did not have the real social etiquette. Especially when I say social etiquette, not talking about what internally in India, but when they were going to different countries across the globe, how do you meet and greet a person when you're going to Germany? Huh? How do you meet and greet a person if you're going to Japan? So different cultures, becoming conscious of different cultures, different etiquettes, presentation. Even they were also forced to eat with a fork and knife. So even this training was also done. How to shake hands, because everybody does not shake hands. In different countries, you have different way of greeting people. So these are all talent, cultural fit, psychometrics. What kind of psychometrics can we use?
We can use a 16 PF, or you can use a 5OB.
Absolutely. There are standardized psychometric tests to help you. So there is the 16 PF, which tells you about the 16 factors. There is the Myers and Briggs type indicator, which tells you
Jung
whether you
type
are an
indicator.
extrovert, introvert, because there are certain kind of personalities which are required for certain jobs. You can do a fire OB. I like fire OB because it
Pyrobi.
gives you a lot of it gives you on two factors: inclusion, how much do you need, and how much do you express. Okay, so in terms of inclusion, control, and affection. Now, role plays, we talked about integrity tests, physical ability tests. At what level, where do you think typically you will use them?
Shop floor workers.
Exactly. It is not that because I've written here a physical ability test, you will use it for IT people, or so, depending on the relevance. So on shop floor, you have to lift something, etc. Like for example, even a mechanical engineer at an entry level, he's also given certain physical ability tests. Okay. 360-degree feedback, very popular. What is a 360-degree feedback? We also have a 470 or 475 feedback. What is 360-degree feedback? Feedback from multiple stakeholders.
Multiple
Today,
stakeholders.
when you are getting feedback, you are also getting feedback from your vendors, from your suppliers, right? From your customers, so that you are able to understand. Because let me tell you, why do we do employee satisfaction surveys? All HR people will do employee satisfaction survey.
Culture of the organization, and where do you belong at any
Culture.
point in time.
Why should we waste time?
Employee
in terms-
engagement
Huh?
to assess the engagement on the role.
See, you should get feedback from the person who is a recipient of your
Services, interventions.
Meghana, right? It's key today. It's key today. That's why CRM is becoming very popular. Earlier days, I make, and you, whether you like it or not, you buy. Because there's only one ambassador, there's only one Maruti. There are only few products, so I am in the monopoly. But today we are not in a monopoly. Customer is king. So you have to get your feedback. So he is the recipient of your service. So you have to take his feedback to what? To make changes in your product or services. So ultimately for HR people, our internal customers, our employees are our internal customers. So I want to understand, hey, it is not important just to get the best, what is it? Typically our HR mindset is, oh, I have gone to this conference, excellent performance management system. I'm going to have an excellent assessment center, excellent, recruitment system. But hey, I need to understand, I need to get the feedback from my customers. So if you say I have an excellent recruitment system, please get the feedback from your, hiring managers or from your department as to after you recruit, after you select and interview and give the offer, how are they performing? What is their performance after 3 months and 6 months? That will decide as to whether you are very good at recruitment. Am I right? No? You have to do that. No? 30% or 50% have attrited. So are you a good recruiter? Are you doing a good function? Or for example, performance management. So you are supposed to be doing training. You are supposed to be, I'll say, hey, we give excellent training. We give excellent, performance appraisal, counseling, etc. But then you have to check with your customers who are your internal employees, those business employees who are at the receiving end of your service. Have they been able to really grow into leaders? Have they been able to grow, do better perform? So that will give you the real index of what you have. That's a measure. Okay. Not the number of activities or number of things you have done. Okay. Quick. All right. Guys, I'm not going to come back to this. All clear? Okay. Yeah. So now we come back to the very important core thing, because if you miss out on that, then, then you cannot get quality reports. So what's very, very important? Hey, when I'm observing, behavior is very, very important. So let us understand a little about what is behavior. When I say behavior, behavior should be observed. It can be verifiable, but behavior is not, oh, I feel that. Is it behavior? When you write, when you observe and document or record, I feel. Does it have a concrete evidence? No. Opinions are not behaviors. Inference, I'll look at it and say, hey, Subir is a great leader. No, it's just an inference. It's not going to justify or it's not going to give me anything. Vague generalizations, statements. So while observing, while recording, if you're going to make something like feelings, opinions, inferences, vague generalizations, statements, these are not to be considered. Okay? Because these are not going to give you sufficient evidence, and also these do not give you what you cannot then evaluate and assess a candidate or an employee on the basis of this. So what is behavior? So it has to have proper behaviors which can be observed, which can be verified, and you can actually measure them through various levels of proficiency. Okay, guys. But yeah, I'm not going to go through this. I'm showing you slides so that you can just look at it, because we have activity. So I don't know. So like, for example, for planning and organizing competency, these are various behaviors. Okay, I'm going to share this PPT. You can have a look at it. Then say, for example, teamwork and collaboration, actively participating, communicates, resolves conflicts, contributes to positive culture, demonstrates flexibility. All these are behaviors. I'm trying to show you so that you have a good understanding of under each competency, what kind of behaviors are there and how do they look. For example, communication skills. Active listening. Is it a part of a communication skill? Yeah. And expressing ideas. Maintains effective non-verbal. What are non-verbal cues? That means kneeling forward, right? If you are just laid back, and that is also a cue. Okay. Responding to questions or asking questions. These are some of the behaviors. For a leadership competency, various behaviors. Provides constructive feedback, communicates effectively. Say, for example, I'm doing a performance appraisal interview as a leader. So how do I go through that entire thing? Or time management. How do I prioritize? How do I set? How do I maintain? Okay. So these are some of the things. Problem solving. Okay, I'm not getting into this. This I'm going to share with you. It's very important. Now, I'll show you this and you have to do something. Now, typically when you design an assessment center, this is what matrix looks like. Okay, what is a matrix? That means I need to create a matrix wherein I will list out, hey, what are the, see, when I say dimension, these are all behaviors or the competencies, all the same. So here, if you can look at in this matrix, I am assessing the list of competencies. I'm assessing what? Problem solving, decision making, leadership, etc. Oral communication, written communication. Now, what kind of exercises am I using? These written case, oral presentations, leadership. I'm going to ask one of you, volunteer. You can volunteer. Say, for example, in basket exercise I choose. What is in basket? Very popular in basket. Priyanka comes to office, okay, and then she comes at 9 o'clock, and she sees on her desk. But today we use a computer. In our inbox, there are so many things, emails, memos, lot of things. So you have 3 hours or 4 hours to finish. So how do you prioritize and how do you finish all that? So what do we do in basket? We actually put up a lot of things to do. So if you are at so in basket can be done, first of all, at various levels. It can be done at an associate level, at a team level, leader level, manager level, at a higher level. So depending on the JD, you will create that kind of an in basket. So at a lowest level, maybe most of the things you have to do it on your own. But at a manager level, we are looking at, can he delegate? Can he prioritize? Will he do everything on an urgent basis within the required time? So this is called in-basket exercise. Okay, setting priorities. And then it also helps you to understand critical thinking, analysis, or all this. So now, for example, if I say in-basket, okay, how many competencies does it test? Quick. Anybody? See, in
8.
basket test, problem
Planning and
solving, decision making, all these cross marks, right?
Yeah.
Huh? Administrating skills, delegation, planning and organizing. In fact, for in basket planning and organizing, for this competency called planning and organizing, in basket is a very good exercise. Okay. So have you got the feel of how you will decide on the list of exercises or simulation exercises, and every exercise has to evaluate, if not two, at least more than that, 2 or 3 or 4 competencies. Okay, sometimes yes, there are certain exercises which give you evaluation for 3 to 4, or like for example in basket gives you the maximum. Okay, now what I want you to do, I'm just stopping this. There's a very interesting, I think Vilma has already shared it with you. It's a group exercise. We're not putting you into groups so that we can also help you. Everybody will be in one group. And this is a real exercise. We have done it. This is not something fictional. You have been given a job description of a customer service champion. Okay. And Virgin Mobile has to recruit customer service champion. Then please go through the JD, and there are certain competencies for which you want to test them for. Okay, they believe in their core values are value for money, good quality service, brilliant customer service, innovativeness, etc. Having fun. So, who is a good fit? Customer focused, open, fun, and friendly, energetic and enthusiastic self starter. All right. Now he has to be a team player, flexible, problem solver, and have a sense of humor as well. So Vilma has given you, she's already planned everything for you. She has given you a Excel sheet, just like the way, I'll go back, just like the way I have shared this matrix. Okay. Please, all of you, think that you are now going to select customer care champion for Virgin Mobile. And there are a set of competencies required. You have to assess them. You have to evaluate them, whether the person, where does he, and whether he is a fit person to be selected or rejected. Okay. So you have to then create a matrix of what are those list of competencies. There's the Excel sheet already prepared. And what are the list of exercises you will do, and which exercise will test which competency. Please put a into mark or a X mark. That's all. Have you understood the exercise? Anybody who has not understood, just raise your hand, please. If you have understood, just give me a thumbs up. Very simple exercise. What have you got? You have a job description. List out the competencies which are required for the customer care champion for the Virgin Mobile. You have to recruit and select a person. You have called all these people for an assessment center. So before that, you have to create a matrix, identify the list of competencies. What do I need to evaluate? Then select the exercises or test, which then relevant exercises, and then you put a into mark or a cross mark as to which test will evaluate or assess which competency. It could be one, and ensure that it should be more than two or more than one. Got it? Simple. How much time? Let us negotiate quickly. Yeah, everybody's giving. Let us negotiate quickly. How much time? 10 minutes? 15 minutes? Between 10 and 15, I'm okay. Huh? All right. So if I say negotiate and I give you 10 and 15 min max, so people will obviously negotiate for the higher end, right? Yeah, that's one more. Okay, your time starts now, Vilma. All of them can be in just one group. And have you seen, Meghna, you have that Excel sheet. Any one of you, just like the way we do it. So one of you has to put up this and look at your JD.
I'll just share it on the screen so that
okay,
they can have a look.
Yep. And JDs they have no?
Can you see now? Yes. So
yeah.
you
See, competence, she has already put some, but I want you to also think through and put, don't get into too many. You can have a maximum of 8. I said maximum of 8. Okay. 8 competencies. This is just for understanding. She's already put them. If you want, you can place them with some other, whatever you feel fit. But she just given you a list so that, and she's already done this, but I want her to delete them because she's already done everything. So,
Yeah.
Vilma, let them do some work.
Communication, customer
Let them
focus.
think, you have already given. So I would like them to take a blank statement and use it only when necessary. Got it? Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, they can get into the group. They're trying to create. What are you doing? Assessment matrix. Trying to create relevant exercises for competencies to be evaluated. This is the activity. Okay, let's process what the work you have done. So who is going to be the MC? Who is going to present the case?
Yeah. So we have customer orientation as one of the competencies that we looked at, and
so step 1, let us look at the list of competencies we want to assess. Yeah.
Yeah. So from a customer service point of view, obviously customer orientation, innovation in terms of thinking, his listening skills.
So here the JD has given clearly the company states, that, hey, customer focus, right?
Yeah.
So when the client tells you, hey, we want customer focus, I mean, it goes without saying that you really have to assess it. So customer focus or customer orientation. Okay. So you said customer innovation was important, right?
Yeah.
Was listening skill also there? As an additional
because
skill?
if you have to be customer focused, you have to also have listening skills with you. Otherwise, you can't, be customer oriented. So we felt that was something which is a competency should be there.
Okay.
Empathize with the customer is important. So empathy came in. obviously effective communication skills is important. We have to communicate with the customer and convince her, him or her. Interpersonal skills, result orientation, because we have
Result orientation. Okay.
Yeah.
Problem solving, flexibility, teamwork.
Yeah.
What if I say, okay, the competencies look all right, but what if I say listening skill? I can, um, I can put it as all right, listening skill, or when I'm testing for customer orientation as a competency, I can also have behaviors which can be incorporated into that customer competency. That's one alternative. Like, for example, empathy. Empathy as a standalone competency. What I'm trying to tell you is you can also cluster so that when you are actually assessing or evaluating competency, you can have, like, for example, even effective communication skills can become a part of your customer focus or customer orientation.
So you are saying
Are you
you
with me?
subset it within a particular competence.
Right. And you are putting behaviors there because then you are reducing the laundry list of your competencies. Got it? If you look at my PPT, after you go back, I've actually given there in detail cluster competencies and what can come under them. All right? Okay.
Yeah.
Next.
Okay.
Next step. Step 2. Looked at in this activity, I said, look at relevant exercises. Okay. So we'll go by who is wanting to take the lead.
Okay, I will explain. So on
We'll
dimensions,
start with role play. Yeah, the first exercise, role play. Okay.
Supposing if we are taking the parameter of customer orientation, we have taken role plays wherein we can give the case to the team, wherein they can present a scenario, how they are interacting, whether they are showing the competencies reflecting the behavior which is more customer oriented. So we can
So role
have that
play,
observation.
I agree with you. Role play is a very relevant, appropriate exercise to test for customer focus because you can actually, one can become the customer and the candidate become the customer care executive who will be handling that customer complaint. So in
Yeah.
a role play, definitely customer orientation can be exhibited.
Yeah.
Innovation, okay. Listening skills, empathizing with the customer, communication skills, interpersonal skills. Tell me interpersonal skills. Do you think interpersonal?
Interpersonal skill we have taken, thinking that if group is asked to give a role play on how they are interacting with each other, we can keenly observe how every
No,
group
no.
member is
This is
interacting.
not group. This is not group. This is you are selecting for one person, right? So you are only testing him with a customer grievance or a customer problem. So I'm just trying to help you with, if there is another scenario there where you wanting to so typically in a role play, interpersonal skills cannot be tested. Okay. All right. Rather, result orientation can be seen, whether he has a focus for concluding that, or he is going to leave it open, or he will help come to some conclusion with the customer. Because the customer say, hey, I want this to be done. Are you going to close it or not? Am I going to get my new product or not? Right?
Right.
Okay, problem solving, yes. Flexibility, you are saying, hey, is he able to listen and listen to the other person's point of view, etc. I give you teamwork, no. Where is teamwork? It is one-on-one. When you say role play itself, it is one-on-one, right?
Yeah, we were under impression that role plays comes in small teams or some
No,
small
role
group
play
of
is
persons.
typically one-on-one. Okay?
Yeah.
Good work. Now let us come to the second exercise. Who is going to take it up? Anybody? Who is going to talk about it?
Okay, so I would like to explain for this too, effective communication skills and result orientation. So for this, we have taken in basket
First of all,
exercise dimension.
yeah,
So
in basket exercise. Do you
because
think
there are
it's relevant?
multiple. Yeah, we thought that multiple activities will be coming, like person will be given multiple tasks. So in that situation, how effectively the person communicating and managing the tasks.
Written communication.
Okay. So here is it. Just to to make it very, very focused and ensure that you get a good understanding. How do you choose? Now you wrote in basket, but the task is what? That you have to select or you have to assess for customer care. Now the
Because
guy does what job, but typically in basket exercises for people who are doing at a manager level an administrating job, there'll be a list of work to do. So you will
yeah,
check how are they managing time. But if I
yeah.
give an in basket for somebody on the shop floor who's doing assembly line, would it be relevant, appropriate? Or for a customer care guy who's only
Mm.
looking at or taking inbound calls or outgoing calls is making, would it be appropriate?
No. For this
You know?
position, we have taken
Ah.
considering that he will be having multiple emails to attend in the morning.
I gave
Secondly,
you
he will
JD. What
be
did you assume? I gave you a JD. Got
he
it?
will be interacting
Huh?
with the people, customers. He will be reporting to these
Yeah. So
supervisors.
you have to understand which exercise. So in basket is not an appropriate one. Got it?
Mm.
Okay.
Group discussion, I would say again here, because you are already doing a role play where you are getting, if you want to learn about his communication skills, etc. So maybe a group discussion, yes or no, I would say, I would recommend. You getting me? Huh? Or you can use
Mm.
group discussion to filter out if you have volumes. So group discussion could be a preliminary round to filter the numbers, to reduce the numbers,
Mm.
so that
Mm.
you can have few people for your assessment center.
Mm.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me see the next person who is doing. Yeah, next exercise, but I can still recall. So presentation skills, somebody had put it up, right? Huh? So now, yes, I would say, okay, presentation, you can do an assessment if you are actually wanting to look at how does he present a product. So you will give a product info and ask him to make a presentation. That's one thing you can do. Okay, I will give you a go ahead for that. What was the next one? Yeah. I'm seeing Meghna has put up a. Let me have a. Actually, she's logging in. Okay. What was the next competent exercise you have put up? Anybody remembers?
No, Meghna is back. Meghna,
Meghna,
can you share your screen, please?
Okay.
My internet is extremely unstable. I'm so sorry.
No problem. No problem. It happens. These are glitches, technology.
Is
So the lesson for us is
glitch.
to have two people have a backup, not depend on
Yeah.
just one person. Not because Meghna is dependable, but the technology is not dependable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, even now it is like unstable. The lines are moving up and down. So I think I should just
Yeah.
put this
So
particular Excel
presentation, I would say okay, because you can actually give the person a product information and see how does he actually do a sales pitch or how does he talk to a customer. You can look at it. Customer orientation and effective communication skills. Okay. Written exercises. I wouldn't really look at written exercises for a customer care guy. Okay, written exercises maybe to a certain extent of how does he typically what happens in a customer
Ma'am,
for a job like, yeah. Can you hear me or I'm not audible? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
yes, you
We can hear
Huh?
are.
you.
Yes, you are.
For a job description like customer care, sometimes they have to listen and also click at a lot of multiple things they have to do simultaneously. You agree? Especially if
Mm.
you have seen a call center guy or somebody working at a frontline level, they have to open up a lot of windows. So, in fact, I recall for my recruitment team who really test for this, his agility and quickness in terms of listening to the complaint as well, opening up windows, getting his information, because you need to, who's the customer, when did he buy the product, what is it, right? A lot of things so that he is able to then talk to him, handle his grievance. That is something we test for. So maybe in a written exercise of kind, both in terms of, how does he operate, opening up windows, and what kind of, short emails he's able to write, that could be tested. But yes and no, written exercise in detail, I wouldn't recommend, not so relevant for this particular position. Okay? Even psychometric, you have to look at cost, time, relevancy. Are you with me, guys? Not because you have all the tests. Abhi mere paas hathodi hai, hammered, and I am going to then, hit a nail everywhere. No, you have to use it very judiciously. Or psychometric, I would use it as a preliminary thing. I can do, like, for example, most of the organizations talk about all the good organizations like a Goldman Sachs or a, Gallup or anybody. They will give you a web psychometric test where that will be the first thing. They don't even want to understand your knowledge and skill, etc. They want to see a culture fit. They want to see, are you first of all fit for our organization? And they would give
Mm.
you one kind of a customized psychometric test.
Mm.
Would you agree to me that? Huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Only once that you have gone through that, they will give you a web, code, and then say, please fill this, do this within a particular time. And once I feel satisfied, then you can proceed with the next. Okay? So it's cost, time, everything, money. Yes, interview. Interview can be a personal interview, right? So it
Mm.
will test for, let me see, you have written teamwork, flexibility, empathy, listening skills. Okay. See, customer orientation through interview, you cannot, because it will be more like an hypothetical. So unless and until this interview is more like a behavioral event interviewing, which we will be doing
Interview.
tomorrow. So
Mm.
it will not take care of just an interview. Then it will be more hypothetical. It will not be demonstrating, or you cannot actually see the real behavior. What are we trying to do in assessment center? Through these exercises, I'm trying to see the real behavior, ability to bring the real behavior. I want to see how will he behave in reality. Got it? But let me also congratulate all of you. Yes, you have been able to get a good understanding. That is the step one first. How do I design a matrix, assessment center matrix? What does it mean? That means trying to understand or write down the list of exercises or simulation exercises which will capture, which will assess my competencies. That's the first step. Good job, guys. I think all of you have done a good job. Welcome back. So just before we left for our break, we looked at the matrix, designing of the assessment center matrix, what it is typically called, that is listing out all the competencies and the listing out all the relevant exercises, which will then assess the given competencies. Okay. Now, next, what we do typically, just I don't want to say, I want you to understand one more thing. Why did we say that the assessment center method or the procedure is a much far, far better method in terms of predictability as in compared to interviews? Because we said that we are trying to create stimuli through simulation. Are you understanding? You know what is a stimuli, right? Huh? Man is always in a state of inertia. He will get into action only when you get a kita, a push. No? It could be a carrot or it could be a stick also. Okay. So here we are trying to, in assessment center, we are trying to simulate. We're trying to create a stimuli so that we can see the responses. We want this position needs key competency, like say, for example, empathy. Hey, does this person have empathy? So unless and until, so what is important here? The right kind of stimuli so that they can demonstrate that right response. So when I'm talking about, why am I emphasizing? It's very important because that the level of difficulty, the level, the depth and the breadth of those tasks to be done by the job, unless and until we understand them, we should be then having exercises built to that extent so that the candidate or the employee can demonstrate, or we want to see what kind of behaviors will be demonstrated. That's the underlying message for you. In fact, when somebody talked about it, say for example, fact finding. So there are also levels or jobs for which we can use the kind of exercises. Say for example, a fact finding. I want to do like Subir is a CHRO position. Typically, what I'll be doing budget proposals, etc. So I might give a fact finding case study, everything. Will say, hey, situation, budget proposal has been turned down. No? So you now tell me what kind of more data you want, etc., etc. Where I can get a lot of key competencies can be evaluated. Or say, for example, a first level supervisor. So typically I'm recruiting, say, what kind of fact finding can I give him? Like, faulty product coming out of your assembly line. Or for example, for the same customer care executive, telephone sales representative, anything, customer seeking help in identifying appropriate products or orders. So likewise, you need to understand the job description in order to create or in order to design the right kind of exercises. That's the message. Okay, guys? Yeah. Now, once you have done that, I'm sure in your minds you must be wondering, hey, but yes, but as I said, the assessor's role is very important. Okay. Now we have done that. Now the candidates are demonstrating certain behaviors. Now, if I'm not able to capture, observe, and not able to record, then all my reports, my, whatever I submit and the integrated report will not be appropriate, relevant, inaccurate. So I don't know if you are able to see, but, say for example, I'm actually checking for a middle level manager, a performance appraisal meeting where I'm also doing a counseling, performance appraisal counseling meeting. Okay. After I have conveyed my rating. So you are giving that as a exercise, and this is a developmental meeting. Then if your assessor is observing for oral communication and seeing so how is that person doing a briefing? How is that person doing the training, debriefing? And you are actually observing all his behaviors. So say, for example, we'll just take a couple of them. We'll take some pluses and some minuses. Greeted John with a smile and handshake. Can you see that behavior? Do you think by writing this greeted, can you see? He's saying something.
Yeah.
Handshake, you can say something. So that's a positive verbal cue. I can do a plus. Spoke firmly yet quietly. Okay, assertively. So it's a plus. You can hear that voice. Behavior is which can be observed. If you can't, I'm quiet. That's also behavior. You will write that the person did not speak. He was quiet all the time. Like, for example, fumbled for the right words to state the objective. So I'm saying negative, minus. Can I see some more negative? didn't directly answer a question. He was not wanting to answer a question or something. So minus. So how do you write? This is a slide to show you the assessor. How does he record his observations? By writing a plus or a minus, etc. Okay? A lot more interesting things. When you are also writing, you also have these things like, can you see something like, can you see this now very clearly? I wrote something,
Yeah.
plus SEN. I will also tell you how they are trained. That means he was sensitive, positive sensitivity. I wrote something like, if you say minus OC, what is it? Oral
Oral communication.
communication. So let's see, minus OC. Fumbled with words when discussing first. Objective in some detail. Had poor eye contact. Looked across the room. Stated that Bob had to overlean so as to handle emergencies. I'm saying, so you have to capture exactly what he is demonstrating in terms of behavior. You cannot say, I feel Anita is showing a certain behavior. Is that a behavior you are recording? Or is that your own judgment about Anita? Inference. Is there a difference in my recording then?
Yes.
Are you getting it? I'm trying to just tell you that, when I make a judgment or when I make an inference or when I make an assumption, these are not the right kind of documentations for behavior observation or recording. Okay? You have to exactly record what he or she is saying, doing. Got it, guys? Okay? So many times in most of the organization, they make the assessor's life simple. How? So likewise, you make the observations. Now, once the observations are made, I told you that the assessors do an integration.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if you see, there are 3 assessors and they have given rating on leadership, decision making. Like say, for example, leadership 4, 4, and 4. So the overall, everybody has the same rating for the candidate. So the overall rating is 4. But here, there's a little difference, slight difference in decision making 2, 2, and 3. But the overall rating is 2. So how do they come to that integrated rating? They're not going to take a weighted average, but they would like to go back again to the drawing board of what they have observed, recorded, and then they would start discussing and come to a consensus as to he should be given a 2 or a 3. All right. So this is clear, guys.
Ma'am, the
final-
last one, planning and organizing. If you see, while the second last oral communication, while 2 was given 4, 1 is given 3, is still understandable. But from our last point is 2, 2, and 4. How is it very, how do you actually convince the other?
Absolutely. So sometimes assessors could have missed some. See, here if Subir and Anita and Meghna are sitting, okay, 2 people have given 2, 2, and Subir is here giving 4. And you are not taking up a case just to defend. There is no defending here. Okay, you will come up with whatever behavior you have observed and recorded, which is solid, concrete, not feeling, not inferring. There is no scope for inferring. You are going to show solid data and saying that, hey, but see, this is the behavior I have observed in this. So sometimes whatever assessors could have missed out some data. So it is only based, so it gives you that what? Scope for ensuring that there is no subjectivity. Got it? We are going absolutely on observed and recorded data. No inferences. There's a difference between inference. You are inferring, you are assuming, no scope for inferring. Okay. So these are again, how. Now, Sometimes what happens to make the SSS life easier, you could also have saying that if I'm going to look at initiative, I'll fix this. So if you have something like an initiative, I can then write out all the behavioral indicators starting from ineffective to effective, and the assessor can just pick them. Whichever he feels, he can observe and tick. Rather than writing it what he has observed, he can just pick what he is observing. That is one way of also recording your observations. Okay. Uh, before I actually do this, I want you all to do a very interesting activity called moon landing. Okay. Now, this is a very interesting activity which we have used extensively in a lot of assessment centers and also sometimes in learning sessions, L&D. Has anybody used this, or has anybody been familiar with this exercise called moon landing? Okay. Very interesting. Now, can you see this? What is it all about? You are a member of the space crew. Okay. Now, with a mothership on a lighted surface of the moon. On the moon, the lighted surface. Now, due to mechanical difficulties, your own ship was forced to land at a spot 200 miles from the point where you have to go. During re-entry and landing, much of the equipment aboard was damaged. Since survival depends on reaching the mothership, the most critical items available must be chosen now to reach that 200-mile trip. Please consider that you are not on Earth, but you are on Moon. 15 items are listed. You need to prioritize them with the help of a ranking method. That means your task is to rank them and say, hey, these are the important items which I need to take, all right, to reach the mothership. Okay. Now, these are all the items. Box of matches. Now, you may say box of matches. Matches is what? You light it, right? Huh? Now, A, only when there is oxygen, you will be able to light a match. But there is no oxygen on the moon. But yes, because that matchstick has a splinter, it will light for a minute, right? Now, I leave it to your imagination how you're going to use it. You have to prioritize them into ranking. Now, food concentrates are there. Then nylon rope. Then parachute silk. I'm just trying to make you understand. This parachute silk, sometimes there is solar radiation. Maybe you can use it as a shield. Then 0.452 caliber pistols. Now, pistols, if there are animals around to shoot them because you feel, oh, you have to protect yourself. But then it's a moon. No alien animals of the earth are there. But when you shoot, it can be used for a propulsion. So you can think, will it be useful? How will it be useful? So what ranking you want to give? I'm trying to explain because some items you may not. One case of dehydrated milk is there. 200-pound tanks of oxygen is there. And moon has no oxygen. Huh? Then map is there to help you understand where are you. Okay. Then self-inflating raft is there. Magnetic compass. Now, will magnetic compass be useful there? On the moon, you need to think about it. Gallons of water are there. Okay. Signaling flares. First aid kit. Solar powered means, with that, you will be able to light it and see something, a distance of 200 miles if it is very dark. So you will be able to see something. Portable heating unit is there. So I just explained to you these items. Now, what you need to do quickly, now you know that you are stranded on the moon. Also, I want to tell you that there is no gravity. Gravity is much lesser, unlike the Earth on moon. Just to familiarize, lest you think, hey, it's going to be very heavy. How can we carry? Right? The purpose of this exercise, because you all are all learning, is to understand how does the group think? Is there a divergent thinking? That means Subir will think differently and Priyanka will think differently, but they still have a goal to achieve, that is ranking of the 15 items. So all that divergent thinking, can it actually converge into goal achievement? So ability to prioritize, look at critical thinking, also looking at collaboration effort, right? You have a goal. So we want to see the team effectiveness as also. So what are the 2 tasks you need to do? A, if you notice in your own sheet, don't have to work individually, just like the way you have done in the earlier time, one of you can put up this and do your ranking quickly. 5 minutes or 10 minutes you should do. This ranking means individual ranking, Subir's ranking, etc. Your individual own ranking. Then I want you to do the team ranking. What is team ranking? That means all 5 of you, will you agree with if box of matches should be ranked 1? Rank 1 means of highest. So your ranking should be 1 is important, most important, then 2, then 3, then 4. So there are 15 items, you have to rank them. 1 prefer the highest and 15 to be the lowest. Okay? Once, so your time is now, you will be given maximum 15 minutes. That is 5 minutes for independent individual ranking, 10 to 15 minutes for team ranking. And quickly then we are going to close, and then you will have to do the next one. That is, we will then help you to analyze and interpret your results. How effective you have been as a team will help you to do that. Have you understood the task? 2 tasks, individual ranking, team ranking. Okay. All right. Your time starts now, Vilma. 5 minutes for their individual ranking, then 10 to 15 minutes for their team ranking. Give me.
Ma'am, how do you do the group activity?
Yeah. How do you do the group activity? What I would recommend, one of you put up on the screen what I just put up. Okay. Then if you see, okay, if you see on one side, there is individual ranking. On the other side, you had the team ranking.
That's fine.
So
yeah.
put that up.
Yeah,
And
okay.
then everybody discuss, and then amongst yourself, what is the goal you have to achieve? Ultimately, at the end of this time, you have to have that ranking in place. And discuss and then put it. It doesn't matter what your individual ranking is.
Agree. Yeah.
You have to arrive at that. Got it? Yeah. I hope the rest of, like Priyanka, Anita, everybody's there on it. So yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
My audio is on, so I'm watching, hearing.
Yes.
Okay, so what I've done is I've just kind of ranked it and I've put it in that order, right? And then maybe we could accordingly discuss. I thought the fact that we are not on Earth, we are on Moon. These are the top 5 things that we would need to survive. So if our rankings are different for the first 5 items, I think we can get into that discussion. Or in fact, you all can tell me what is it that you've rated as 1 in your respective ranking.
I agree to first 5 because a similar ranking I have
Okay.
given to myself.
Okay, Subhir, any changes here?
No, I think this is fine. First 5 is fine. Yeah, same thing here.
Okay. So then we can take the next 5. Yeah, I thought now these are your survival skills. Then I thought, what is it that would be needed to kind of try reaching closer to where the person wants to go. I'm not too sure about magnetic compass, but if it works on moon, I think I thought from a direction perspective, this is what along with a map this person would need.
I'm not sure the magnetic compass will actually work in the
Sure.
moon. I'm not very sure about that.
I also have my doubt. I assumed it will work. That is why I rated it here. Okay.
That's my last agenda. That's
Oh,
the last point.
okay. Okay. Priyanka, what about you?
I thought to have parachute silk. Sorry, signal flares. Because if you put signal flares, at least somebody we can show that we can give signals where I am landing. If something is coming or some message we have to communicate to the master sheet, then it will be with the help of signal flares we can give that.
Okay, so you're saying your ranking, 6th ranking is for signal flares. Did I hear that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, yes.
Sudhir, what about you? What have you ranked 6th?
Just a minute. I think I'm having some problem with my laptop. Just a minute.
Sure.
So number 6 for me is first aid kit. Signal is my 7th. Yeah, so we can also put it in a 6th and whatever.
Okay, so we'll put this in 6th is what we're saying?
Yeah. Signal flares, yeah.
Okay, how about 7th? What comes in your respective slides after 7th? After 6th, sorry. I've put solar power FM receiver. From a signal perspective, I thought.
Yeah, solar power, correct.
Yeah.
They put it there, yeah.
So, sorry, before this, what were we discussing? We were discussing signal flares, right? So this will become 6
signal
and
flares.
this will become 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay. Parachute silk.
That's actually number 11 for me, but you have.
I think self-inflating raft will be coming after this. Self-inflating life raft.
Okay. All right. So, what about you?
What do you think?
But my ratings are here.
I know. So it's number 11 for me. So I'm just thinking.
Okay, can we do one thing? We are clear on the first 5. Okay, let's look at the bottom 5. Things which are not really required or least required.
Makes sense.
Okay. So I thought, these could be your least required items.
Agree.
Yeah, so I wasn't too sure what will we do with self-inflating life raft on the moon. So I've put
for example, magnetic compass is the last point for me, but probably we can.
Sure.
Priyanka, what's your view on this?
Okay, box of matches we know not required. We are clear on that.
Not required. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Subir, what I think is like, sorry, Anita.
No problem.
Yeah, your last 5 are, I agree with that. The middle one, what he is asking is like where the magnetic compass comes. Like when we have taken solar power FM receiver and signal flares, I think magnetic compass can be coming because where the raft is moving. No, thereafter we can take that self-inflicting life raft, and after that magnetic compass, so that we will get to know where it is moving in the universe or wherever we have landed. We need to know the directions.
Okay, so you're saying this should be 8 from the group ranking perspective.
Yeah.
Magnetic compass should be 8?
Yeah, because stellar map will not be useful until we have any magnetic compass.
Okay.
So map we have, but we don't have compass. Then how will we understand the directions?
Okay.
Yeah. So even if even after stellar map, we can take magnetic compass on 5th.
Yeah. So what we can look at is something called a survival kit first, and then probably look at how do we maneuver to the
Like I said, we are okay on the top 5,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now
Mm.
reaching closer to the mothership is what the next agenda should be, right? So I think 6 to 10.
8, 9, 10, 11. You can probably put the 50-feet nylon rope as 12.
Because after parachute, if parachute is about to land and something happens, that nylon rope can be used to reach the land.
And I think
Or
this also
mothership.
be a very clear box of matches are not required. One case of dehydrated milk, I don't know, whatever we could.
Yeah, box of matches won't be required because it is still self-inflating life raft.
So not sure
So,
about
yeah.
the .45 caliber pistols required. So
Maybe if it will land somewhere in jungles or somewhere wild animals will attack you, so that pistol can be.
Priyanka.
No, but after reaching to mothership,
Anita, on the moon, will you find animals?
No, that's what we were discussing.
sorry,
so maybe I think that can be
No,
50.
that was
Pistol.
Priyanka. So I think we would not require. Okay,
we
guys.
will not require pistol.
Yeah, we
The
would-
pistol
we
can
would
be
not
15 actually. Yeah.
Only
Box
in
of
the last.
matches still can be ignited with the help of oxygen. So maybe it can go up if you need light.
What would you do with that? We said this was 13, right? Okay. Okay.
So the option you have here is to make it least important and very important. Got it? So
Yeah.
that is the ranking.
Sure.
Right.
Done? Yeah, looks like you guys have done, right?
Yeah.
More or less,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
guys.
We still all the animals on the moon. I think we can.
Animals. Sorry.
Okay. So just keep this, save it, and if you can, I will just then open my
Okay.
PPT.
Sure.
If you are okay with it,
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now, all of you have this with you, the entire document. I want to show you that this is the NASA's
NASA
you know,
ranking.
ranking. Okay? NASA's ranking. Now, we are more interested it's not a math problem that you got it right or wrong. We are going through the process. As I said, when we give this exercise, we are looking at team effectiveness. How did the discussions happen? How did they achieve the goal? Was there divergent thinking? Was there convergent thinking, etc.? Okay. First, we'll go from team effectiveness. When I have to evaluate now, since we are short of time, you can go back and you can do the calculation for yourself. You have the team ranking also, right? What you need to do was team effectiveness. This is the NASA ranking. One is oxygen. Okay.
Second
Then where is two?
Next page. Next page.
Next page, no? Yeah. 2 is water. Then 3 is stellar map, so that you are able to find out where you are. 4 is you need food concentrate. I'll tell you the least important, I'll give more rational. Food is important. Okay. 5 is the solar powered FM receiver transmitter, so that within a short range, you will be able to actually then see things, Then 6, 50 feet nylon rope, which can be used, on the moon. They can be cliffs, or, you all are injured together, so you can tie yourself together. Then,
For
7.
us, that was
Huh?
one of the least. Yeah. Okay.
And we didn't
First
realize
aid.
that there is no magnetic
First
field
aid
in
kit.
moon.
Because you have first aid kit, because first aid kit, there'll be needles there. So maybe you can actually then, there'll be vitamins, so you can use that for getting some vitamins for yourself. Then 8, where is 8? 8, 8, 8, yeah. As I said, parachute silk, it is that material which you can use for protection, because even on the moon, the sun's rays are there, right? 9, self-inflating lift ramp, which is a carbon dioxide bottle, which can be used for propulsion. You know what is propulsion? Like a rocket. You can use that for propulsion, so that you can fly. Then 9, 10, 10, 10, 10, yeah. Signal flares. This is, as I said, you can use them as distress signals to the mothership. 11. Now starts the least priority ones. 0.45 calibers. To be very honest, you can't kill any animals because animals are not there on the moon. At best, you can use them only for propulsion, because there is, when you click them, there is some amount of propulsion. So you can at best use for propulsion, but they cannot be used for like the way you use it on the Earth. Then dehydrated milk. So it is definitely a heavy duplication of food concentrate. So it's least priority. 13, portable heating unit. You are already on the side which is having light. So you don't really, because this will be useful only when there is a dark side to it. But you're already if you read this introduction, you're on the lighted side. So it is least priority. There is the 14th. Magnetic compass. When, I was wondering, somebody said we can use it for navigation. First of all, there is no magnetic.
No magnetic
I didn't want to comment that time. There is no magnetic field on the moon. Okay. So you
True,
cannot
true.
use a magnetic compass because it has no use. And definitely the last one is that 15, box of matches. It's worthless because you can't, no oxygen, you cannot light it. Got it?
Yeah.
Hey guys, now, so this is it. Now you go back. What you need to do is, now say for example, for box of matches, can you tell me what is the ranking you got? Team ranking, not individual ranking.
Okay, just a moment. Ours was 15. 13, sorry.
got 15, huh?
Team ranking was 13.
How much? 13. Okay,
13.
13. So 15 minus 13 is how much?
2.
2. So forget about minus 2 and plus 2. Don't have to worry. What you need to do? Just put 2. Okay?
Sure.
Then next, food concentrate. Ranking is 4. So you look at your own team's ranking.
Food concentrate.
Generally, just tell me, just help you with 1 or 2 things. Huh?
4.
4 is it?
So sorry. We are talking about team ranking, right? 3.
Yeah, not individual ranking, team ranking. Yeah.
3.
Huh?
3.
3.
Food
So
concentrate.
4 minus 3 is 1.
Sure.
Okay. Now, what are you doing? Irrespective of minus or plus, just start what? You have to take the difference between your ranking and the NASA ranking. Don't get into minus or plus. Got it? That's the first step. Then after that, you add up everything. What do? You add up everything. If your total or the sum is between 0 to 25, that means you are excellent. That means you are almost, you are showing the same results as NASA came up with. So you are excellent. Your surviving skills are great. If you are between 26 and 32, okay, good, you made it. 33 to 45, average. 46 to 45, fair. That means you are still alive. You have, difficult to reach that place. So these guys, very difficult to Go to that place where the mothership is there. So what does it show your results? The score should be, the smaller the difference, your results are better. The wider the difference, that means your results are not very good. So your team effectiveness depends on this scoring. Okay, that's one. That means your goal achievement, you are effective to an extent that this is the score of that. So that will reflect your team effectiveness. Now, let me also help you with some amount of, did I put my, when you are discussing, there is a goal there, that is ranking. I think I will agree. So that is called, so somebody will say something. So like, for example, was it Meghna who led the discussion, and she said, hey, this is my individual ranking and this is what I think it is. And for some of it, you said, I agree, I agree. So that's called convergent thinking. There is no conflict. Everybody so is influenced by that thinking and you are getting closer. But what if, like Subir said, hey, I am not sure on the space magnetic compass will work. But then somebody said, okay, assume so. But I mean, there was not much of a, what is it? Um, no argument, first of all, or was there discussion? So and then people, the team members quickly went into convergent thinking, saying that, okay, fine, we'll do this ranking. So, but in a group where there's too much of divergent thinking, that means you are looking at one view, somebody is looking at it another view, but nobody is taking the lead to just not justify, at least give an argument in support of that view, opinion, and bring together, converge it into one consensus. Then what happens? Your discussions lead to nowhere. Are you with me, guys? Your discussions don't lead to
Yeah.
nowhere. So
Hmm.
typically at that point of a time, good leader, that's what you observe. And a good leader will observe this. And they'll say, hey, Priyanka, see, you have expressed this. See, and you won't say, I feel or assume. So my with reference to my view and in supporting my view, this is the argument I have for it. Okay, like for example, Subir stopped at it. He said, I'm not sure whether it will work on the moon. And she just said, I assume so. But nobody went into deeper discussion saying, what is the supporting evidence or supporting logic for any kind of a thing. Even when you are ranking,
Hmm.
everybody said, okay, fine, this. And then, in fact, typically we give longer time. So
Hmm.
everybody just got influenced with what my team rank, my individual ranking. So, but there was not much of evidence or supportive argument in terms of why am I actually asking you all to put this as in this rank. Are you with me?
Hmm.
Okay. So
Yeah,
you all
like
were
you said,
all
we had
great,
limited time.
got influences. So your focus was in terms of, hey, we need to finish up, we need to actually achieve this ranking. Okay. So whenever we give exercises, we are not only looking at goal achievement. Let me just stop that. We are also looking at what? The processes. I mean, what has happened, observations. And then we look at, if it is for learning purpose, experiential purpose, then what we typically do is we will actually take out all the data, what we have observed, and then show them, hey, this is how you demonstrated, this is how you behaved, this is how you showed logic, etc. But if it is an assessment center, we only record and we do not actually give a feedback. But if it is in terms of, I'm looking at it as a developmental center, I'm looking for more collaboration, I'm looking for more teamwork, goal achievement through teamwork, through a leaderless group, then we will try and help. What are those interventions which are needed further? Are you with me, guys, now? So please
Yes.
go back within your group. I would expect all of you all to work on this and see what was your team effectiveness. Got it? Yeah.
Sure.
Hmm.
Priyanka, if you can show the sheet, and you can just copy the
Yeah,
cumulative.
later on, huh?
I've
Okay.
shared, I've worked
Now-
and shared it on the chat.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Now let me
So we
actually tell-
survived or we
We were average. So 30.
Okay, okay, okay.
okay.
Now that you can do it later. Okay, guys. Now I talked about assessment centers and development centers. The assessment center objective is different and a development center objective is different. Development center is more for the purpose of understanding the gaps, improving upon the weaknesses by use of interventions. So it is used mostly for talent and development. Okay, assessment centers are mostly used for recruitment, selection, promotions, etc. Got it? Okay. Now, you also need to do training for assessors, because if they do not understand the exercises, if they do not understand the competencies they have to evaluate, if they do not understand the entire behavioral, the bars, levels of proficiency, then they would not be able to do justice to their role. So it's very, very important to understand the entire process, bring about standardization and consistency, understand the tools and techniques, okay? And they are given actually a lot of rigorous training in terms of how do you observe, how do you record, how do you classify, then how do you evaluate, right? How do you communicate? So there's an intensive training for assessors. And let me also tell you, assessors are paid very well per day, 50,000 just to assess, that is just to observe and record. So therefore, it's a very expensive proposition running an assessment center, because typically assessors are all some psychologists who have deep understanding of all the behaviors. But in today's times, you're also using a lot of HR managers, business managers, giving them a little understanding of all this, and then you use them so that it becomes a little more inexpensive. You use assessors from your internal middle managers or maybe top level leaders. Okay. So typically, let me just give you, typically when you have to evaluate, and especially in your recording form, you can have just like a rating scale of 1 to 5. You have it in the appraisal form, you can have a 1 to 5 rating scale. And this is a small recording sheet where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just like again performance management, how do you assess? So you have poor, marginal, acceptable, good, outstanding, and then descriptors for them. Okay, and this is how it looks, an assessment report form where 1, 2, 3, 5 they represent what what the behaviors are. So as I said, or observe, record, classify. And then once you have done, so you can see this is another sheet where you are recording and then scaling it. After you don't come to the scaling levels of proficiency right away, 3, and say, hey, this is a 3. No, first you observe, you record, and then you will evaluate and do the scaling. So team working. After looking at the behavior, they'll say, hey, this is at a level 3. After looking at the behavior, you will say this is at a level 4. You don't jump straight into the quantification, that is the numbers, because then you cannot actually justify. How will you say it is 4? You have to substantiate or give evidence. First, you write the evidence and then come to the conclusion that it was a 3 or a 4, and then integrate it and then give a, if you see, this is the overall rating. Okay. That was an exercise, you can do it. So guys, this is all. I hope you really understood, because I tried to make it so simple and so that you are able to appreciate, understand, go back and do in your own role in a small way. I hope all of you had some takeaway from this session in terms of understanding and what it means, and it's not a black box, and you understood what is assessment centers.